Deputy County Executive Brett Jarrett.
Yay! But Dow asked me to thank all of you for coming out tonight and having a conversation with us. One of the things that we're going to follow a lot of the patterns that we've had in the past, talk a little bit and then get as quickly as we can to your questions. But we're also going to do some different things tonight to include everybody in the audience and not just those who have a chance to ask a question. Is that any better? Okay. Maybe if I'm really good at sticking my foot in my mouth. Maybe if I get the microphone. Anyway, so we're hoping to be able to bring us a little bit into the 21st century. Harold will tell you a little bit about that in the future. A couple of comments I want to make is that one of the things that's been incredibly important to Dow in the 8 years that he's been county executive is how do we improve the way that we do business as a county. He's created this idea, this aspirational goal of what we call best run government. And we've done that in a lot of ways in terms of activities we've done inside the organization to try to smooth flows and make things happen more quickly and to be able to deliver more with the same amount of resource. He's also come up with some new approaches for providing better equity and social justice, giving people economic opportunity to be able to become their best selves. Recently, he's asked me to take the lead in an effort to put together a new department. And the understanding is that we've not done as good a job as we think we could do in the unincorporated area. And so what Dow asked me to do was to lead a team to put together a Department of Local Services. And Harold's going to talk a little bit more about that, but I think that's one of the biggest events that the county has gone through in the last few years, that we're actually going to start focusing on how do we make the county act like a city in the unincorporated area. So Harold is going to talk a lot more about that. Harold is our lead in making that department happen and is I hope going to take leadership longer term in doing that. So thank you again for coming out tonight. Look forward to your questions. And I would like to introduce one of my colleagues from King County, the good council member, Larry Gossett, who is your council member and an extraordinarily advocate for the people of King County for, oh boy, longer than I can remember. Back when I was in college, I think we were all that was only 2 or 3 weeks ago. Sorry.
I first joined the King County Council in 1994. And back in those days, there were 3 county council members that represented various parts of what is now the Skyway unincorporated community. But as things transitioned and our districts got either larger or bigger based on the number of county council members that there are, by way of example, from 1994 to 2004, we had 13 council members. And then some things happened, and we were reduced down to 9 in 2004. And we're at 9 now. But when those changes were made, the geographic boundaries of our districts changed, and the number of people who we represent changed. At the beginning, we had 155,000 people in each of our districts. Today, because Seattle is the fastest growing city in all of the nation, and King County is the 3rd fastest growing regional government in the country, each of the 9 of us now represent 220,000 people in our district. So when that occurs, new geographic areas are developed. And by law, regardless of how many council members there are, we all have to represent more or less the same number of people. So all 9 of us currently have, and we have brochures over there district runs from Skyway in the south into Rainier Beach area. Rainier Valley serves Franklin High School. It includes the central area and about half of Beacon Hill. And then when we go to the east, it includes all of what is now Seward Park and Mount Baker. Then we move, still going north, all of the central area is in my legislative district. And I reside right in the heart of the central area, about 2 blocks east of Garfield High School. Then we move on down to Mount Lake, and my district ends on about northeast 65th Street, just before, right after you get to Roosevelt High School. And the neighborhoods that I serve are Fremont, Ravenna, University District, Lawhurst, all those neighborhoods are as part of my district. So it's about 90% Seattle and about 10% unincorporated. Most of you, to the extent that you reside here in Skyway, live in unincorporated King County. And if you have any questions about our specific policies and programs that just serve the unincorporated area, this is the kind of meeting that you, I believe, is going to be really beneficial for you to be at. Because as has already been mentioned, if you look at your schedule, we have people that are leaders in our sheriff department. Mitzi, Harold is one of the leaders, and he has been historically in the transportation department, but we organize these parts of our government. We have Deborah Jacobs, who is the current director of our Office of Law Enforcement Oversight. That's the agency that deals with conflict between various communities around King County and our King County Sheriff Department. And then we have Kevin Brown, who's going to be here as the director of the Department of Natural Resources. And of course, we have Jim Chan, as well as other members of Deborah, and that's our regulatory agency for King County. So it's my hope that regardless of the issues that are on your mind, or the ones that will be generated by you listening to us on this evening, that we'll be able to satisfactorily respond to issues that are of importance to all of you, whether it be related to the issue that we dealt with a lot last year, and that's the placement of a small business in the business district, or whether or not there's blockage of sites for people who currently have views, and our Department of Land Use has authorized somebody to build a house or apartment in front of you. If you're concerned about marijuana stores or the fire department or the new King County Library, issues surrounding that, we are here to listen. I believe we have a very broad representation of men and women who work for King County that can provide adequate answers to most of the questions, if not all, that you raised tonight. So this is your meeting, and we've been told over and over just to give introductory comments and then turn it over to the people. So I just want to conclude that it continues to be a privilege and a pleasure of mine to be the representative of those who reside here in Skyway on the Martin Luther King Jr. County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. So I get an opportunity to say a few words about the Department of Local Services. As a Deputy County Executive, Fred Jarrett mentioned, it was intended to address a sense that we weren't providing enough local service attention in unincorporated area pockets. So the department will include road services and a permitting agency as a division, and have also service partnership agreements with all the other agencies that provide services in unincorporated areas. And beyond the creation of it to address something that we don't think we've done as well as we could in the past, it also affords an opportunity for the agencies to collaborate more strongly. One of the things that we realize is that as we come out to communities, we don't necessarily coordinate terribly well when we come out. So in some cases, I know that several county agencies over a week and a half have come out to a community, and the community members are wondering, geez, you guys coordinate at all? Because I just talked to something about something similar. So that collaborative effort is something that we're going to be focusing on. Customer-driven, that customer focus is another thing that I think will be key. And if we do it right, you will sense an increasing sense, or increasing vibe, or increasing awareness that the programming that we have and how we make decisions really keep the customer in mind. And I've shared this several times. This is about meeting number 8 out of about 10 or 11 meetings. And I've shared that as a longtime county employee, sometimes I have to admit that as I make decisions or involved with some programming, that the hassle factor for a county employee is, I hate to admit it, but sometimes that's a factor, and that shouldn't be as much of a factor, certainly, as delivering the service to those we're intending to serve. So we're trying to make the customer, and I'm not saying that it's not happening, but making sure that the customer is number one in terms of how we deliver services and programming. And then finally, the connection part has to do with our opportunity like this to come out to communities. I also say, half serious, half jokingly, that sometimes when we come out to a community and we ask for the input, we talk for 45 minutes, listen to 5 minutes of feedback, and then pick up and go home. And we're trying to reverse that, trying to be really intentional in the manner in which we listen and do something about it. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and we'll have to just deliver. But that is the spirit behind why this program is set up the way it is. The community service area group, headed by Alan Painter, who's walking around with the clipboard, and his staff, Bob and Marissa, are responsible for setting these meetings up, but they also administer a grant program and want to make sure that you know the applications will open in the fall and the awards will be made early next year. And we also have information, project information, contact information that's at the front desk to give you a sense of all the activities that are going on in your community from the county's perspective. And then wearing the hat of the Department of Transportation Director, we have a couple of folks represented. There's a ton of folks represented here, but we have with our department, Brenda Bauer, the Road Services Division Director, and Brandy Reddick, who's in front of a laptop. So if you have any questions involving what's going on or service need that you have in unincorporated areas, she'll be able to look up what we've done in the past and intake your concern. And we also have Maggie McGee over in the transit agency. On the road side, we're looking at some school zone safety work, sidewalk improvements in this area. We're designing and constructing a mini roundabout nearby on South Langston Road and 59. So those are the activities that we're doing that you can look forward to. And on the transit side, which is pretty exciting, we have what's called the Community Connections Pilot Project. So that will be designed this year. So we'll be working with members of the community later on this year and figuring out how best to make a community connection going on. And I think that's really exciting because we're not solely focused on a fixed route bus to deliver people to and fro. We're finding other ways of doing that. So that's pretty cool. So let's continue with the program. Unfortunately, well, it's not on your agenda, but normally we have King County Assessor out here. He was not able to make it. So we'll move to our next important speaker. Our County Sheriff, Mitzi Johanknecht, is right here. Give her a big warm welcome.
Hey, good evening. I'm humbled and proud to be able to serve as your sheriff, and looking forward to this past 5 months has gone by very quickly. Learning a lot, but looking forward to where we go in the future. And so just a little bit around the Sheriff's Office. had the honor of working with Councilmember Gossett and getting some wise counsel and preparing to work for our first budget cycle in my administration in 1920, the 1920 budget cycle, and working really to look through the lens of a strategic plan and building a strategic plan, making sure that we focus our mission and vision and goals through that plan with community output, input, and I'm a little tired. It's been a very long day for me. We've had a bit of drama in the sheriff's office earlier today. So anyway, we're going to work through that process, work with you, ask you things to help guide us in how our services should be delivered to you and what's important. Initially, we're starting off with the main themes that everybody can agree on, which is providing good public safety, so doing good law enforcement, focusing on traffic safety, and then keeping the crime rates down, doing good investigations. That'll develop more once we get around the county and get that input that I talked about. So that's exciting. A great opportunity of working with Deborah Jacobs in the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight. I firmly believe in oversight, and so we're beginning to put together those things into the future that creates transparency for you all as you look at what we do in the Sheriff's Office. So that's the second thing. When we get to questions and answers, you might have some questions for me, so I'll leave a little bit more of my time speaking to that, and we'll move along. And thank you very much for coming out today. This is really helpful for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, I think one of the things that I was supposed to do during my segment has everything to do with this slideshow. So Deborah will come up right after I do this. So I want you to break out your smartphone right now. We're going to try something this is kind of new for us to try. We did it in a couple of other communities, and it was kind of interesting. So this is very, very simple. If you go to your internet browser and type in slido.com, there's only going to be 4 questions. I lied. No, do you feel like you're back in school? 4 questions. Okay, are you ready? Here's question number 1.
What's the code?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, you can tell why I'm not in the teaching profession. Okay, so when you get to slido.com, you'll see an opportunity to put in a code, so type in KC Local 3. Okay? All right. So, for those of you who aren't into using your phone or everything, we have hard copies of these questions too. Do we have the hard copies over there, Alan?
Right on the back table.
We have them back there. Alan's going to grab them. So let's move to the first question. All right. Using one word, which is the King County service or effort that has had the greatest positive impact to your community? And what you do when you vote on a word, you'll see later on that the size of the word is indicative of how many people have chosen that word. And we're, out of respect for our series of presenters, we're going to do this at the very end, but you have an opportunity to contribute to it. Just one word. Okay? All right. Second question. How should the new Department of Local Services best communicate with your community? And there's a series of 5 choices there. Go ahead and pick one of the 5. Can you actually pick more than one? Okay, you're not locked out. You can pick more than one. Town hall meetings, social media, direct mail, newsletters. Okay? This is question number 3. Using one word, what is the top challenge your community faces? Top challenge. Okay. And the last question is open-ended. How do you think King County could help solve the issue you listed in the previous question? So if you thought it was ABC, what do you think that we could be focusing on to help address ABC? And again, Ellen has, I think you have some hard copies if folks want to contribute just in writing. Yeah, raise your hand and we'll provide you that. And at the end of the meeting, before we go into Q&As, we'll pop up the results, give you a little vibe rolling into the nature of the Q&A. Okay? All right, so we'll be back on that now. Let's bring forward the OLEO Executive Director, Deborah Jacobs.
Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Of the residents, how many of you are aware that you have an Office of Law Enforcement Oversight in King County? Yay, yay, gold stars, yay. We are really just coming into fruition in November 2015. The voters of King County voted to make the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight a charter agency and increase some of its powers, and we're starting to live into those. For those of you who don't know, police oversight is one kind of police accountability. Other kinds are lawsuits and protests and internal affairs and all those pieces. There's a big constellation of police accountability. And what makes oversight unique, it's within government. So it's one government agency interacting with another. There are about 150 oversight offices around the country who do the types of activities and work we do. And I'm going to lay down real quick for you what those activities are to give you a sense of it. So one of the things is the purpose of oversight. Well, there's several purposes. One is to increase people's confidence in the police services that they receive. Secondly, also to improve trust between police and community, and then also to just bring that public voice to police practices. So these activities that reach those goals are, we look at every internal investigation completed by the Sheriff's Office to make sure it was thorough and objective. Was every witness interviewed? Was every I dotted and every T crossed? When we find things, we dialogue with them. We're very lucky to work with this Sheriff's current IIU captain. We have great rapport, and we are able generally to come to agreement on things. Although OLEO, our office, has a choice to certify or not certify them as thorough and objective. So that's us looking at the trees, every investigation. We're also looking at the forest. We look at systemic practices, use of force practices, training, recruitment. It could be any issue that, a police agency is extremely complex, and the Sheriff's Office actually doesn't have the benefit of internal auditors, so we can serve some of that purpose by doing systemic reviews. Another key duty we have is outreach, and that's me today here with you. It's also, we have a community advisory committee, and we're always interested in people who would like to serve, so keep that in mind and let me know if you're interested. We also give input on policies. I think this is one of the areas where we can be most effective. The sheriff runs by policies by us prior to adopting them per our ordinance, and we give our input, and she can take it or leave it, and we're able to bring that public viewpoint to a lot of issues, and it's very noticeable to me what kind of things we're able to help with and kind of bring insight to. The 2015 November vote that expanded the authorities of the office also expanded it to include independent investigations. That's not something that's come to fruition yet because it's in a collective bargaining process, and we'll see where that lands whenever it's over. It takes a while. I think, we also have a shared alternative dispute resolution program. I think both offices really see the value of a dialogue between a member of the public who has a complaint and a police officer to sort of see each other's perspective. And so when officers enter into that voluntarily, they don't have to face an investigation and charges. They can go through that program as an alternative, and I think everybody supports that, and we're always looking for the right cases to do that with. We're really excited about collaborating with the new Sheriff's Administration, particularly on outreach. I think we have a lot of public education to do. The Sheriff's Office and my office as well cover lots of territory with very limited resources, although at a much larger scale and with extremely high importance to health and safety. But I think you'll see a lot more of us, and I hope that you'll be interested in oversight and keep your eyes on us and see what we can do. Thank you.
Our next speaker is representing the Department of Natural Resources and Parks, Kevin Brown. Wonderful.
Thank you, Harold. How many of you were here last year when we started off with calisthenics, push-ups, jumping jacks? You should have seen. But yes, I'm Kevin Brown. I'm the Division Director for the Parks and Recreation Division. And tonight I'm representing the Department of Natural Resources and Parks. We have 4 agencies within our department. The Solid Waste Division, the Wastewater Treatment Division, the Water and Land Resources Division, and the Parks Division. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about parks, starting off with sort of what we do. Across this county, we have about 200 parks in our system. And that's about 28,000 acres. It's a pretty big system that we manage, basically from Vashon all the way to North Bend, from Federal Way up to Woodinville. We have about 175 miles of regional trails. We have some great regional trails near here. We've got the East Side Rail Corridor and Lake to Sound, and the Cedar River Trail folks may be familiar with as well. But mostly what I want to talk about tonight is what's happening at Skyway Park. We have been planning lots of activities, and some of them take a little bit longer than what we had originally intended to do some infrastructure improvements that are still being developed. But I want to talk about some of the programming. We actually just secured a partnership with the Renton Little League to use the fields out there. They've gone unused for a couple of years, and it's great to have Little Leagues out there playing baseball. Renovations. We have both renovations to the park as well as new development. We're going to be installing some new post rail fencing along the park, putting some ADA upgrades in the parking area. We're going to put a gravel walkway around the north end so folks can use it more, probably about an 1/8 of a mile in total to get some exercise. And then safety lighting as well. But the big improvements are the new development that we've been planning for a bit, which includes the play area and the mini-mod soccer facility. We have about $2 million for the park. The play area has been in the works for a bit. We were trying to work with the Sewer and Water District on some timing of their project. We're actually going to be moving ahead, hopefully at the end of this year, beginning of next year with this project. Partnerships. Recently, we are looking at a proposal with Skyway Solutions in the King Conservation District. If folks are familiar with the pie slice just above the park, there's a proposal to actually put a community garden there, which we're really excited about, and trying to figure out what the logistics of that would be with utilities and getting all the services to that. But hopefully you'll see that going in towards the end of this year as well. Program grants. Council this past year provided funding for the Youth Athletics Sports Facility Grant, and we have 3 grants for programming in this area. One for Skyway Access to Sports, a second to Skyway Solutions, and a third one for South Seattle Youth Initiative. We're working with the Skyway Solutions to figure out what the programming elements of that will be, but I think there's going to be a lot more activity within the park. Programs for youth in this area, which we're all excited about. Starting as soon as we get our contract, I'm finished. My guess is it would be starting at the beginning of next year with the programs. One sentence on the other 3 sectors. The Solid Waste Division. They manage, one of the big things that they do is outreach and education around recycling programs. The Wastewater Treatment Division, they improve the water quality in terms of all the stormwater and sewage. We have several treatment plants across the county, making sure that water is clean before it heads out to its final destination is critical. And then finally, the Water and Land Resources Division. They've got a bunch of different programs. I'll speak about the farming and forestry, trying to retain those types of professions. The history here, a lot of agriculture, a lot of forestry, trying to preserve those occupations and ability to continue that in county's priority. All right.
Is Red Little League going to start this year?
They are going to start this year, yes.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. Representing the Department of Community and Human Services, we have Jim Vollendroff. Give him a big, warm welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Jim Vollendroff. I'm the Director for the Behavioral Health and Recovery Division of King County. And that's part of a larger department of the county, the Department of Community and Human Services. And within that department, we offer a lot of services that help people who are in need of various services. And they're anywhere from housing programs to helping people with homelessness issues, behavioral health issues, and programs for helping young children. And so within that department, there's a housing repair program that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of specifically, in which we offer low or no interest loans and grants for income eligible households to repair homes that are owner occupied. We also offer services for behavioral health services. And again, I'm the director of that particular service. And as you are probably well aware, we have an opioid epidemic in this community. And one of the things that we are trying to do is create a treatment delivery system where people can get treatment when they need it. Because oftentimes if we can intervene earlier, we can make better headway and get better outcomes. And so the county's been really working hard to create more access points. One of our community partners is here tonight, and let's hear it for the Renton Area Family Services service back there in the back. They've been a long-time contractor of King County to provide treatment services for youth and families in the community. We also contract with an organization called SOUND, formerly Sound Mental Health Services, who also provide services in the area. We're working hard to create access points throughout the community. One of the things that we're responsible for is to make sure that we have services from each end of King County to the next. And we're a large community, and providing services throughout the community is a priority of the executive and the King County Council. A number of services are funded by local tax levies, so I wanted to highlight a few of those and talk a little bit about those services. One of them is the Best Starts for Kids levy, which is a voter-approved initiative here in King County. That really is understanding that if we want to get ahead of some of the challenges that people have, we've got to start at an earlier age. And so there have been significant investments in working with young people all the way from infants through age 26 to make sure that people have the supports that they need in terms of social determinants of health. The other levy that we have is a newly passed Veterans, Senior, and Human Services levy, and that levy provides services for veterans, seniors, and provides services for human services as well. So some of those services include behavioral health and housing services. And then finally is the Best Starts for Kids levy, the Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Tax. And the Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Tax provides services for people who have behavioral health conditions in the community. And so collectively, we align those resources with federal and state funding to provide a continuum of care for people with behavioral health conditions. Finally, we offer employment and education programs for individuals in need. We have a youth employment program that is quite popular and readily available to members in the community. And the last area of the division that we offer is services for people with developmental disabilities, and making sure that people living with developmental disabilities have access to services and care throughout the community. So that's the work that we do. I'm here for the rest of the evening, and I'm happy to take questions and answer your questions. I'm here at the back table. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Our next speaker, representing the Department of Permitting and Environmental Services, standing in for Jim Chan, we have Brad Clark. Come on up, Brad.
Good evening, everybody. We're the department that everybody gets warm and fuzzy about. Permitting and zoning. The department actually has, this is really hot, isn't it? So the permitting side is dealing with, building permits and HVAC and things like that. So if anyone has recently redone their garage or worked on some kind of critical area, then you would have gone through our office, which we are in Snoqualmie. So that's where the permitting office is. Another function of our department is code enforcement. So everything from your junk vehicles to the lovely people who decorate their yards with refrigerators and things like that. You can call our code enforcement division for that. And then we also have long-range planning. Long-range planning has a couple different functions in the county. The regional planning office, which we have Karen in the back that works with them, is one of that element. But we particularly in the Department of Permitting and Environmental Review deal with community plans, and that's one of the main things that we wanted to talk with you about tonight. As many of you, I see some familiar faces, know, the Skyway West Hill Action Plan was an effort by Skyway Solutions here. There was a plan that emerged out of that did go to the county council, did not end up getting approved, but we are now in the process of sort of picking that up from the county side, and in about maybe 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to really kick that off full time. So that's going to be a 1-year effort. We're going to use some of the material that was generated in 2013 and 2015 as part of the swap. We're also going to be looking at your 1994 West Hill Community Plan, which is still active. It's on the books, but I doubt many of you have it by your bedsides. And we're going to sort of take those two documents, look hard at how we can sort of merge those together. Where are some of the other King County initiatives? How do those fit? And then we're going to have a couple of events throughout that year where we're going to basically just be coming to hear from you. Lots of community input on that. We're going to have some opportunities through the website, and I'll also be in the community about once a month. Not sure exactly where, but in the community, so if anybody's walking by, you can just kind of drop in and get feedback on the community plan. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Sorry? The question is, how will I let you know where we're going to be? Good question. Since I don't know, we will definitely have the website up and going by that point. So I think that's probably the best. If you just go to kingcounty.gov/permitting. And then we will have the Skyway West Hill plan. There will be a button right there on the website that will have that. But another option is that if you signed up when you came in tonight, my understanding from Alan is that maybe if you have your email there, we will use that. And at least initially, unless we have some concerns that maybe are expressed from people who don't want us to at least for the first email let you know that we've started the planning process and to let you know where our local office will be for this next year throughout this process. So happy to answer those more questions later on that particular one. Probably many of you know, and we had a few questions earlier on the so-called Mount Anderson site off of the MLK Way. That continues. If anybody's been tracking that, the pile itself is down, so that's a good thing. There continues to be an effort to find a buyer. The county contributed approximately $400,000 to the remediation and the cleanup of that site. So that is recuperated upon the sale of the property. So that will happen. The owner today is, I actually can't say the exact, it's Anderson. The Anderson family somehow. It's approximately 17 acres or so. So that we sort of keep your eye out in terms of the next buyer, because that will be the one thing. We will, in the community plan process, be looking at zoning, and that is one site that will potentially, we will definitely take a look at to see if the current high-density residential zoning is the most appropriate for that site, for that 17 acres. It's residential right now, yes. High density residential. It allows for apartments. So we'll be looking at that. They do expect to have the work on the fencing right along the manufactured home park that is near there. There's got to be some fill brought in, and they are working over the next 2 to 3 months to get that fill to come in and sort of bring that site up to compliance. A major topic at the meeting last year was the Devzat coffee shop. As many of you know, there was an effort to get the county council to change the ordinance. That did in fact happen, and our office is currently reviewing a permit. The zoning has already been approved for it. There's just a couple of other items that we've requested to kind of finish that off, but that is an active permit and is under review, and the plans examiner has told me that fully expects that will be moving ahead very soon. Yes, we believe it's in the manner that he desired. The one, Mr. Kankaya, Nilzak Kankaya, the owner of the coffee shop. And before I turn it over to my colleague, Jake, to talk about a marijuana survey that's ongoing right now, the Lake Ridge neighborhood was another topic that we've heard about. If you're familiar with that neighborhood, there's been a number of large houses that have been constructed. Some concern that the county has heard about the size of those, about potentially blocking some views, about really not fitting the character so much of the neighborhood. We have had a couple of meetings with neighbors. We've also been working internally in our office to talk about the code and if there are any potential code amendments, but that will, we fully expect, be an item that will be a part of the community plan as well, looking at that Lake Ridge area and if there are any potential zoning fixes that we could put in place to help prevent the kinds of blocks and views and things that people have concerns about right now. Finally, I'll just mention that we do have on the back table a map that shows all of the sort of major development activity that's happening in the community, in the West Hill community right now. It's got little boxes that sort of point arrows and show where that's happening, and there's a number of multifamily and some commercial going on, so you're welcome to grab that map. If you have any questions about what those projects are, we can give you the card of our planner who can give you more information. So with that, Jake Tracy from our department is going to take it to the next one.
Could I ask a question before you?
Are we doing questions at this point? Okay.
The SWAT process took 3 years and a lot of involvement. What was the reason the King County Council did not adopt the plan or tweak the plan so that it could be adopted and you're going through another elaborate process to look at both the 94 plan and the SWAT plan? What were the problems with the information as it existed?
Well, I can certainly let Councilmember Gossett explain. I could just give the one sentence from our standpoint, I think, is that the plan was prepared with a number of specific action items in it that have budget implications that the county felt probably were not fully thought out in terms of the impacts on the budget and how those actions would actually be implemented. So there's more, but I mean, I think that was a piece of it. That was a real driver. Councilmember, did you want to add anything at this point?
I think that was a very relevant question. And what happened at the end is that the executive, his budget director, and 4 or 5 members of the county council said, if we adopt this plan, then the residents in Skyway are going to think that we can come up with all the money to do all the things that is currently laid out in the SWAP. And that's not very realistic. So let's go back to the drawing board and not make the mistakes and provide some criteria criteria. This is what we think the county can do over the next 3 to 5, 10 years. And these are parameters that you have, and we'd like to see your suggestions on what you think your government should be doing in your area as it relates to development activities like reforming our land use, facilitating and funding development of certain kinds of businesses and affordable housing and that kind of thing. That is what's happening. That's what happened.
Thank you.
This is Jake, y'all.
Thank you for that introduction. So yes, my name is Jake Tracy. I am a planner with the Department of Permitting and Environmental Review, and I was hired to deal with all things marijuana for our department. So back in 2016, when the King County Council and the executive put into place new regulations around the marijuana industry in unincorporated areas, they also directed our department to study a number of topics around the marijuana industry. So we're looking at a bunch of different things, but broadly they fall into 5 categories. Where are the existing businesses now? How are they distributed? And what are the patterns that we see from that? How much land is available under current zoning for new marijuana businesses? Do we need to look at opening up additional zones for marijuana businesses? Have there been any impacts to unincorporated residents as a result of these businesses? And then if we find any negative impacts, how can we mitigate those? How can we increase equity and social justice around the marijuana industry and provide better access for people who use marijuana medically? So on the topic of impacts, we're taking a data-driven approach, looking at crime data, enforcement data, and complaint data, so we get a comprehensive and thorough look at what is actually going on out there. But we also want to hear from you. And I've talked to a number of you tonight, heard some really good things, and look forward to talking with you more. But we've also got a public comment website up currently. We have flyers back there at our table that have the web address. It's kingcounty.gov/KC marijuana study. And that's going to be up through the end of June. So we want to hear from you. Have you experienced any impacts from the legal marijuana industry? Positive or negative? Or we want to hear that. Or maybe you haven't experienced any impacts. We would want to hear that as well. So we really look forward to hearing that and talking with you and hearing what your thoughts are on this industry. One last thing on the topic of marijuana. There is currently the Liquor and Cannabis Board is currently reviewing a proposal for a marijuana retailer that is on Renton Avenue South. It's at the gas station. It's on the corner there by the grocery outlet.
Jeez.
So that's currently in review. It hasn't been approved yet. If it were approved, they would have to get a business license from King County, and would also almost definitely have to get a building permit and possibly a conditional use permit based on, depending on what the size of that business is. So that's something, a more recent development there. So they have a review process that they do to determine if the applicant, the Liquor and Cannabis Board, has a process that they do looking at whether it meets all the youth-oriented buffers from parks and playgrounds and schools, as well as looking at the applicants, doing background checks, all of that kind of thing. From what we can tell, this property is the only property in all of this area that is outside of all buffers. It's this one tiny corner property that is the only one that has any potential for a marijuana use. Again, it hasn't been approved by the Liquor and Cannabis Board yet, so we'll see what happens there. But if it does get approved, from our regulations, they would have to go through a permitting process and get that business license, but they have not applied for those at this point. We will do the permitting, yes. Yep. And so I think that's all I've got, and I think I'm
Go
gonna
ahead and answer that question, and then we're going to transition. Go
I
ahead.
have
Okay.
a question about the survey. So does
Sure.
the survey have any questions about how the tax revenue is being used and how we would like it to be used in our communities?
So the question was, does the survey have any questions about how the tax revenue is being used or how you would like it to be used? So, it's not really a survey, it's more of a comment opportunity, and with several open-ended prompts. We're mainly asking about impacts, but we also have a more catch-all question of, are there any other thoughts that you want to share with us about the industry? What's that?
That's narrative, right?
Yes, yeah, so it is.
We're not gonna get numbers of how many people think X or Y.
We will do that through a more qualitative approach, but yes, the questions are open-ended, asking for comments and feedback rather than like a Likert scale, 1 to 5 or something like that. But yes, the allocation of money is very complex, and not very much of it goes to the county. But
Unincorporated areas or where?
or in general and to unincorporated areas, yes. All right, so I think we're going to transition now. I'll give it back to Harold.
All right, thank you, Jay. Give him a round of applause for that. Okay. A couple of announcements before we find out the results of this survey that we did tonight, and then go into Q&A. We have some folks back there. Let me tell you the departments that are represented that didn't necessarily come up here. Public Health is here, Office of Emergency Management, the Office of Cable Compliance, Regional Animal Services, and Performance Strategy and Budget. And all the staff are back there ready to answer your questions throughout the evening. I also want to give a shout out to Chief Eric Hicks, Fire District 20, sitting over right there, making sure they're safe. And also, State Senator Rebecca Saldana is yeah, there she is back there. Thank you for being here. All right, let's do that game show thing. What did the people here tonight say? Question number 1. Roads is the biggest one, probably not a big surprise. Security and sheriff are tied for second. And if the words were not a little bit off but have the same vibe, like transportation and all that, that certainly contributes to the roads challenge, perhaps. So that's kind of, in the upper right-hand corner, there are 24 of you, not counting the hard copies that we'll collect throughout the evening, but that's just the thought of the folks in the room here of what's positive impact. Well, I think it means that when you put that over there, that is something that to you is something that an effort that has had the positive impact. I think we'll probably see another side of that coin here a little bit later. We'll see. Yeah, people interpret this, but I'm going to take that as a good thing for now. Let's just wait till another slide. Okay, second question. Interesting. Town hall and in-person meetings appears to be number 1. And let me tell you, in another meeting, it was email, and in another meeting, it was social media. So everywhere we go, there's a little different focus in terms of what, come down, yes. I'm going to live at your place, Mark. I see way too much of Mark here. Okay, third question. Using one word, the top challenge, equity, media, crime, resources. I mentioned the lack of resources. Wow, look at that. Unwelcome development. Unwelcome development. There's a whole host of issues that come to mind of the folks here tonight that represent the top challenge. So that's a snapshot here. And then let's see if we can see a smattering of some of the questions or answers. Balance need for affordable housing with maintaining a green feel. Make business areas across the entire unincorporated area hospitable for retail marijuana. Make it hospitable for retail marijuana. Partner with organizations to develop more overall programming to assist special needs. Provide better representative government, more intentional resources and services, more creative partnership. Rent control. Give the citizens of unincorporated King County the same rights as those in cities. Work with Renton potential annexation area to have another vote. Stop excluding or grossly limiting resources from unincorporated communities such as Skyway. Need some deputies, pay more attention, innovation, hold more listening sessions, and not give answers that are not really answers. Okay. Who the heck said that? No, I'm just kidding. Our community services, awareness of how changes affect longtime residents, promote opportunities for education, affordable housing, social services. In Skyway, I think that's what it meant. Advocate on behalf of the area's residents' best interests, working with local organizations promoting economic development, incorporate, provide more services or annex, communicate, get input from long-standing local residents. There's a little theme there. Zone for affordable housing. More proactive versus reactive. Funding with no strings. Being present and providing resources. So, and the cool thing about that kind of contribution is not everybody is comfortable raising their hand and standing up and asking a question. So we get a broader range of feeling, and we know that this is, there's like 50 of you, 50, 60 of you here tonight, that's not necessarily always going to be representative, but it is just another vehicle that we wanted to deploy to get a feeling of what people were thinking. Okay, now we are moving to the Q&A portion of the program. So if you could raise your hand with your question and say who you are, and then we'll go from there. And I already know who Mark is, so he gets to kick it off. No, I'm going to do the Larry Springer thing.
Jerry
Springer. My name is not Jerry Springer.
Looking at you.
My name is Mark Johnston, and this question is for you, Larry, and it's about marijuana. April marks the third round of marijuana licensing, and the one store that was up for licensing in this round has come to Skyway. At least it's a proposal right now. It's the one that the one in the jurisdiction that includes Skyway that was up. It could have gone anywhere in the unincorporated area or the 22 smallest cities in King County, but it came to Skyway. And to me, that's a disappointment based on all of the time and effort that community members in both Skyway and White Center have spent trying to advocate for the county to wake up and get these stores allowed to be out in other areas of the county. There are currently 12 stores open in unincorporated King County. 5 of them are in Skyway. 5 of them are in White Center. 2 of them are in Vashon. There are none in all of the rest of the county that includes 200,000 residents. There are none. So, in addition, the cautionary tale I heard is that in this December report process and new legislation for potentially proposal, I assume, about the impact of marijuana stores, that limit of 2 stores in any one of the council districts 3, 7, and 9 that was put into the legislation or into the request for the report about neighborhood business zones might stick there. And why can't we have a reasonable limit in Skyway? If you think that a reasonable limit of 2 stores in a district that holds 60,000 unincorporated residents is great, but allowing 6 stores in Skyway that has 17,000 residents is also great, there's a big disconnect there. So anyway, what I'm asking for is your advocacy.
First of all, I need to draw your attention to the survey we just saw. So somebody's in the audience has said in their survey responses that they'd like to see the community and the government be a little more accountable to these stores that may be here or may want to locate here. So everybody does not think exactly like you. There are 61 stores open now in King County. And the 6th one is being considered, you heard what's his name, our marijuana guy?
Jake.
Jake said, no decisions been made on this last store. It still has to be okay by Olympia and the county, and it's 6 out of 61. It's not 6 out of 12. So we have to look at that. But it would be good to get other people, because we always get Mark's opinion about the marijuana store. We like to hear from other people.
I have an opinion. I have a
Okay,
comment.
yeah, go ahead.
So if we've got 5 and we might get 6, let us have the money.
Okay, I think that's a very relevant
Thank you.
question.
They make lots
He
of money.
said if we have 5 and we may get 6, Larry, he said let us get the money. And I heard that I represent an area that's 90% Seattle, and particularly the people around 2030 Union. They said, man, I can make all the money. And like over the last 10 years, a whole bunch of our kids went to jail for selling marijuana around here, and this guy making all the money. Where does the money go that we put in? And we're not the city government. I don't know exactly where the city puts its money. The money that we've gotten, we put quite a bit of it, I just found out last Wednesday, into the police services, to the King County Sheriff's Office. And I don't know exactly how much it was, but I'll be able to find that out. And I actually agree with you that more tax dollars that are created from the existence of these stores should go to the communities where the stores are located. And the extent to which we'll be able to facilitate and make that happen, I don't know, but I definitely be willing to take a leadership role in trying to figure out what we can do in that regard. Did you want to raise your hand?
Marijuana stores in a race with the number of churches we have in our area? So next thing you know, we're going to have 10 or 12 marijuana stores, the same with all the churches we have up here?
I have no way of answering. Jake, she's thinking that could it be 10 or 12 marijuana stores all in this neighborhood? And if you think not, why not?
Sure, so that's a good question. So there's a combination of the county's regulations and state regulations that would rule that out from happening. The county council passed regulations saying that any new marijuana business has to be at least 1,000 feet from any existing retail business. And so that combined with the youth-oriented buffers that the state has, so separation from playgrounds, schools, and that sort of thing, and with just the zoning that's allowed in the community of regional business zones. From what we can tell, that rules out a marijuana business on every property in Skyway currently, except for this one that is proposed now. It's the one property that is outside of all of those. Additionally, the state allocated a number of licenses, 22 licenses between unincorporated King County and 22 small cities in King County. So they said, okay, these 22 cities and King County share this number of licenses. Now, unfortunately, about half of those small cities have banned marijuana. So a lot of those have gone into the unincorporated areas. But nearly all of them now have found locations. There are a number of areas outside of Skyway and North Highline where it appears that they're outside of all buffers, but for whatever reason, the business owners don't want to locate there or people won't rent to them. I know, speaking with the person who has applied for this license here in Skyway, that was not their first choice. They were hoping to locate on a property out towards Snoqualmie Pass, and we're all set to go there, and somebody, I guess, came in and, according to them, overbid them by $100,000 on the property. So because they were not able to get that property that they wanted, this was their second choice. I believe that they would be renting from the gas station that's there. I don't know what their arrangement is, though.
Well, and it's a Snohomish County business. Also means it's not
So, what I've noticed, my experience with those kind of shops, marijuana shops, and this may be better for the sheriff to answer, I've not ever noticed any
big disturbances or carryings on or awful things that have happened at them. They've always seemed to be up and up kind of businesses.
Well, that's good feedback to hear, and we appreciate if you would comment.
So I don't know if there's anything,
survey as well.
has there been, and if not necessarily just in unincorporated King County in general.
And part of our study currently is we are looking at crime in association with these businesses to see if there is any correlation between crime and density of retail marijuana businesses. So that's something that will be in the study.
When you've got 6 stores in Skyway.
Mark, please. Be fair, be fair.
The complaints that I hear are from people who live right near these places. But as someone who doesn't live nearby, what really bothers me are the signs that are so indiscreet, where I have to think about how many marijuana stores are in my community every time I go by. We used to have like a little green thing. You could ignore it if you wanted to. But I mean, I think it's such a popular product. Why do they need to barrage us with these horrible signs?
Sure, and the County Cannabis Board actually did pass some new regulations around signage. They can't have the sign spinners anymore. They can't have the waving tube men guys. They can't show pot leaves anymore. Pretty much all that they can do is say marijuana 21 plus and have an arrow pointing to it. I realize some of the signs are still pretty unwieldy, but they have.
They could do a little better, even
if it's an existing billboard, then. But in terms of other signs, they would have to meet the same code standards as other King County signs, in addition to those standards the Liquor and Cannabis Board has.
Yeah. So I guess for me personally, I don't necessarily have an issue with the businesses being here because it's a legitimate business. My issue is, again, the number of them, but we have no community center for our kids. For me, that's a personal issue. For me, it's easier to be able to get a business and to get a building for a marijuana dispensary, but we can't provide somewhere for our kids to go. Yes, we have the Boys and Girls, club, but that's not accessible for everybody. You know what I'm saying? There's still little catches and hiccups to that. So that's my personal issue. I don't have an issue with the businesses. I have an issue with the number of businesses and not one community.
For sure. Yeah, I can totally appreciate that comment. The county has put into place regulations to stop clustering, and as part of the study, we're looking at further measures that we can take to add to dispersal of those. So that's something that we are taking seriously and that we are looking at.
Sure. I just want to piggyback off of Ayana as well. What came to my attention was the picture here, which is a beautiful picture. But this is not Skyway. This is White Center, Greenbridge. This is what we want here. And why aren't these types of projects supported and put on the front priority to be done here in Skyway?
Here, here.
So our department only does permitting. We don't advocate for any project in particular. When someone has a project that they want to do, we help them understand what the regulations are and meet the county code. I don't know if there's anybody else who could speak to that issue.
This is what we want for Skyway. We want these type of economic development opportunities, low-income housing, first-time homeowner opportunities, and we don't have that here. What can we do as a community to support those type of projects and the organizations that are trying to put them together?
Alan, do you have thoughts on that?
Alan, is it true that the picture is this many not from Skyway?
The picture is for all of the West King County, which is all the urban unincorporated areas. So that's why it's just one picture, but it covers all.
But it's Greenbridge.
No, I understand it's Greenbridge, but again, that has information about Skyway, North Highline, and other parts of unincorporated urban King County. So we didn't make a special picture for each one. I think the simplest answer is there are some initiatives that the Department of Community and Human Services done, the Communities of Opportunity. Unfortunately, Sky was not able to get a grant this round, but there'll be other rounds coming up, as I understand, from from Jim for help with the community. There's been some investments in the community through Best Starts for Kids for some of the projects. So there's a lot to be done, and I think we basically have to work together as a community to identify, work with some of the nonprofits. You have strong nonprofits in this community, Rent Area Youth Services, Urban Family, Skyway Solutions, Somali Youth and Family Club, and others. And they meet monthly to sort of discuss what are some of the needs of the community. I think you have the foundations to do some great work. It's just putting together some proposals, working with some housing developers to connect with some other, those nonprofits to put something together. Right now, in North Highline, there's a couple of nonprofits who are working with the housing developer, put a project together there. It's just finding the talent and the ability of the folks to work together, and then working closely with the county and with other funders, with the King County Housing Authority and others, to pool what resources we can. But it starts with a vision, and we just have to work as a community to get there. But it's a good question.
Could actually apply to Best Starts for Kids money with this fund?
I believe some did, but I don't know all of them. I believe Skyway Solutions did, and there weren't enough funds to fund everybody. But there's been some funds. They did receive some earlier, and there's another round coming up. There's been some other funds, I think, from the youth program that Skyway Solutions has received to do some work. So with the new funds that we heard about from Jim, there have been some investments here. So there's a start. We just have to keep working at it. But great question. Keep honest.
This gentleman was raising his hand.
Your name, and then I'll hand you the microphone.
Yeah, I'm John Holt. 5 years or so ago, I think Skyway Solutions brought up this project to put this mural on this 129th Street going down west from Martin Luther King Way. They put a bunch of effort into doing this really nice mural, asked the community what they wanted, and then they said there will never be any graffiti on it because we'll take care of it. It's covered with graffiti. I'd like to know who is responsible for this and when it's going to be fixed, because it's a disgrace.
I am not familiar. Is anybody here familiar with that?
Okay. Initially, the project was initiated by Skyway Solutions. My name is Bong Santo Domingo. B-O-N-G. It's very legal now, Mike. Initially, that mural project was initiated by Skyway Solutions. So they did this elaborate design involving a bunch of people, color-coded design, so if somebody tagged it, it would be simple to just repaint a piece of that artwork. Unfortunately, those folks are all gone. The folks who initially painted.
In fact, it was actually repaired once.
Yes, one time.
And the paint was stored at the pot store, actually.
Okay.
But it somehow disappeared.
All right, here's the suggestion, guys. I talked to Michael Majid because Skyway Solutions owned the project. I asked him why doesn't he just talk to the pot owners? Because that is a retaining wall. The pot store. It's on their property. It's a retaining wall.
It's probably right away, but still.
No, you will need to get a street use permit. But no, actually we have up to 5 years, I think, because they did apply for that. Okay?
But it was all volunteers who did it. Really not that many who were there, and so, you know.
Okay.
So, I was one of the painters on that, and yes, it is all volunteer. The young lady whose design it is, Kate Mark. When this project first happened, there was a designated tag team. I'm on that team, so it's myself and Kate, and I'm not sure who else it is. And yes, it was repaired once, what, last year, a year before?
No.
And
5
correct,
years ago.
the paint was stored, so one of the ladies who was in charge of the big project, yes, it was Skyway Solutions, she is no longer here, she doesn't even live in the country anymore. And yes, it was stored there, and correct, it has come up missing. Kate has been in contact with them. The owners have no clue what they've done with the paint. There is a guide, if you will. I'm using the wrong word, but there's basically a guide that tells us which paint goes where and which paint shade goes where. And then the other hiccup has been when we paint, we have to do it when it's hot. So the time that we did repair it, it was dead smack in the heat of the summer. We can't do the painting when it's been raining. And then last year when we kept planning to do it, it just never happened because of our schedules. Like for instance, for me, I am union steward at my job. Our contract was up, so when I wasn't working, I was bargaining, and that's a process. So just in between our jobs and our responsibilities and trying to catch perfect weather, it just didn't happen. So trust and believe. In the meantime, it is an eyesore. I have a personal attachment to that wall. My baby's name is on it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elijah One's mother. So at the very bottom of the hill, the one place that isn't graffiti is his quote. So that is an eyesore for me. I have a personal emotional attachment to that wall. So just know that we are trying to do it. It's a matter of getting all the paints regathered and finding the time and the manpower, because it was an all volunteer community-based effort. So even though there is a tag team, there's really only about 3 of us, on there. So if we could get together collectively, try to figure out, how we can get the paint and the supplies replaced, we can definitely do that. And it wasn't a long process. It was very easy to do. And after we did it, I think it lasted a month and a half.
Basically nothing was it.
The tags last because of the wet weather.
Thank you. Now, I want to time manage here. I've been informed that we need to be completely out of this building by 9:30, which means we have to wrap everything up. So keep that in mind. If I started getting a little pushy just to get this thing closed out, that's why. I'm going to pick on you. Go ahead.
My name is Claudia Starkey, and I live over on the hillside over here that overlooks the valley. And something that was brought up at the last meeting that I was at were the gunshots that we hear every morning. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't have to use an alarm clock anymore because they come in pretty regularly. And I never, ever hear a car racing to that place, sirens going off. I hear my neighbors talk about it, but that's all I hear about. Can someone please address that?
Hi. My guess is what happens is people hear it and they don't call 911 to report it. And we find that frequently. So I'm asking everybody here to help us out. If you hear something or you see something and you feel inside that it's not right, call and we'll filter through it and we'll get there, or we'll work with the City of Seattle. On shots being fired, it's important for us to know, even if we can't find the shooter, because working with the King County Prosecutor's Office, there's several agencies in King County, to include Seattle and South End agencies, doing called a Shots Fired project. And it's bringing us forward data that tells us, in general right now, what we know is that about 90% of the shots fired events, and it can just be hearing a shot fired, or it doesn't have to be that somebody was injured by it, that 90% of those involve 10% of the same people. And so there's this social network of folks where the guns are going around and being shared, and they're the ones that are doing the shooting. So we're working really closely on that behind the scenes. We're looking into the social networks and the hangers-on of the social networks, because that's the connection that's coming in particularly, and these are young people with young girls and young women. And so from the next steps is to take that data and then to find out how we can use community-based services and wraparound services to help pull folks away from that. So it's not a direct answer, but some stuff that we're doing and working on. And importantly, please don't feel like you're overburdening 911. Please call us so that we can, at the very least, grab the data, at the very most, get out and be a siren and be that person coming out.
Thank you.
You're next.
Hi, my name is Preston Horton. I have 2 questions for you, Sheriff. One is, are your officers getting any CIT training? And how much? And has it begun, or is it planned to be begun soon? And secondly, with all the marijuana stores we have, we're likely to have more people driving high through the community. And my understanding is the law enforcement community has not yet, that is my understanding, figured out an objective, reproducible test to determine when people are over the limit in terms of their ability to drive safely. Is that problem being solved?
I'm really tired, so I'll try to get all of this. So the first one is about CIT training. One of the things that Director Jacobs is talking about too. At the end of last year, there was this big push, and at the beginning of this first year, and our council members supported us in providing funding for exactly that, for bias training, bias training, CIT training, crisis intervention training, and to short answer to one of your questions is, by the end of this year, we're focusing on getting every patrol deputy, everybody pushing a police car, through the 40-hour class. Everyone. So that's our goal. There's some state goals too, farther out, but that's our goal. Recently, thanks to Deborah, we had got a little presentation to King County, to my upper command staff, on some new implicit bias training. And in my 33 years, I've never seen command staff walk away and go, oh my God, I learned something, this is amazing, and we need to do this. So the Sheriff's Office is again going to work with my council members and look at how we can use that across the county, because it goes wider than just the Sheriff's Office, and all of us to go through this training. And maybe, Director, do you want to say a few words about that at all?
Never met a microphone I didn't like. I guess for us, just so you know, as I mentioned earlier, the Sheriff's Department is lean. All of King County, legit, does not have enough money. So as a consequence, to my mind, they don't get enough training opportunities in the Sheriff's Office. So one thing that was, I think, exceptional about the 3-day de-escalation training that many went through, and they're also going through the CIT training, is that it gave them real hands-on opportunities, chance to use your body, get your muscle memory going, put someone in cuffs so you haven't had that training for a long time or whatever. So you will hear my office say again and again that one of the top priorities for funding should be training in particular, but we have lots of needs in the Sheriff's Department, and we have lots of needs across the county. The anti-bias training is done by a guy named Dr. Bryant Marks, who's a Morehouse College professor, and I loved his training. We saw him, he's doing all of LA County, all of LA County, which is like over 20,000 people, And he is an African-American guy, and what I really liked about him is he was successful in communicating with law enforcement. He was able to meet them where they were without giving up ground or authenticity. There's a lot of people running around making money training cops and the rest of us on all kinds of things, and so if you're someone who's looking into that, this is someone I'd really recommend, Dr. Brian Mark. So hopefully we'll bring him to a broader swath of King County Sheriff's Office, which really needs and deserves the training, and so thanks for supporting it. CIT is crisis intervention training. It's really to address people in behavioral crisis, and it does kind of two things. This 40-hour, first of all, the whole state is required to have 8 hours. Every officer is supposed to have a minimum of 8 hours. It's being integrated into their academy training, and so soon everybody will naturally have it. The 40-hour goes in deep about some of how people in different kinds of behavioral crises present. But the other thing are the tactics, the interacting, the verbalizing, the using the tools that you don't carry on your waist, you know. So that's basically what it is, and you've supported it, and we're grateful.
And then one other thing I want you to know about, and I appreciate that Deborah and her staff go and attend trainings with us and work through us and observe and do those things. They're always welcome to join us. The beginning of this year worked really hard while I was campaigning about giving us other options for less lethal applications of force. And so we have accomplished in the beginning, the first quarter of this year, to actually roll that out to get all of every commissioned officer in the sheriff's office took training on the less lethal shotgun. So we all know what it is, how it works. And then we trained specifically deputies and deployed them around so that we had that tool deployed. So if we're in a position where our taser's not working and you have to be close, with the less lethal shotgun we can stand off, we can retreat, and we can cover somebody who may have a weapon or may be a danger to somebody. And so it just gives us another option from further away to deal with somebody in crisis if necessary. So those are deployed. We're deploying more. We have another training class in June. But we're trying to be really creative and across the board in training for de-escalation skills, but also having the tools that help us when we just have to use them.
Driving test? Testing people for driving high?
Oh, yeah. And I will check into it. The last time we do blood draws on those, and so there's ways for the state to test that and have the indication. So,
is that accurate?
So I would say so. We're sending people to court. I am quite a few years away from working the street, so I can check into it for you, but I don't know the details of that. Unless, I don't know if Jimmy knows anything, or maybe Jake does.
No, I can tell you that you're right. There is no field test that we do. If we have to do it, we have to do warrant and a blood draw. Now, blood draw is pretty much 100% good to go. We have state scientists, the Washington State Patrol Criminal Crime Lab, that test it, goes to court, has a very good conviction rate. I'm not sure what the statistic is, but the point is, before getting there, that's the problem. Now, if we see somebody, here's the misnomer about DUIs. You don't have to be over the legal limit to get a DUI. Just driving erratically and having that marijuana, that THC, or that alcohol in your system is enough for me to give me probable cause to book you into jail or to cite you for that DUI. And then the judge will determine what and how your punishment should be or restitution should be. So we identify THC drivers the same way we identify alcohol driver. Obviously, when we're driving down the road, we can't see. If you cross the white line, you swerve or whatnot, you're driving too slow, you stop, your reflexes aren't in accordance with other drivers on the road, then you're probably going to get pulled over. We'll begin our investigation that way. But yes, there is no actual field sobriety test that we can do. We have DREs, recognition experts. They can do tests field sobriety tests on, field tests on people, but not every deputy is a drug recognition expert. And they measure dilation of pupils and some other tests that they do. So
You're working.
yeah, as a nation, I don't think there is a THC test yet. Like where we have a portable breathalyzer test for alcohol, right? Or we still have our field sobriety tests, and THC can still affect you like alcohol. If you can't, walk the line toe to toe, if you can't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so forth, then those will all give us probable cause or increase our investigative steps to make arrest.
Thank you. After a conversation like that, I imagine everybody's going to drive perfectly out of this parking lot.
My name is Lisa Walton. I'm fairly new to the community, about 4 years. When I purchased my home about 4 years ago, it has since doubled in value and therefore the taxes. With the development that's happening in the south of Lake Washington, I've been inundated with real estate agents, and I'm just wondering if, I'm obviously not in the planning commission, I'm wondering if I can get an idea of the vision for this area with that new construction going on, the tech buildings and the conference room. My imagination's going crazy. I'm thinking gentrification is just around the corner.
So I'm clear, so the question was sort of the vision for this particular...
Yeah, the growth that's happening in South of Washington, the tech towers that we have.
So in terms of that particular area, and maybe Kira can actually better than me, I mean, that's outside of King County, unincorporated King County.
But I'm just concerned because I'm already inundated with
Right.
real estate, and I'm seeing changes in the community, and I'm just wondering is there a vision? Is there something that I should anticipate? From what I'm seeing already, I mean, it's starting making changes
Yeah.
and impacting us.
We'll tag team. I can tell you one of the reasons that that we are picking this community plan process back up. The Skyway West Hill Action Plan that was done a few years ago did look at some land use issues, but it didn't necessarily analyze neighborhood by neighborhood within West Hill and what is the zoning now, what could it allow, how many units could you do, what would be the maximum. There's the current plan actually calls for a lot of protection of the existing single-family, residential neighborhoods in the community. That's pretty explicit in the current 94 plan. We will be asking that question as a part of this process. And is that something that you want to see? How to be able to do accessory dwelling units? Do you want to be able to go from one house to a duplex? Or is it just, let's just keep it, the way it is? So I mean, the question of vision is timely because that's one of the central questions that will be asked in this next thing. So do you have anything to?
Sure. So I'm Karen Meyering, and I work in the regional planning section in a section of the executive's office. And one of the projects that I work on are the great big annexations. And in 2004, we started on this process of working with our partner cities to get the remaining urban unincorporated islands, which are completely surrounded by cities, annexed. And we started with 12 large islands. We've made a lot of progress, but we do have 7 left. And Skyway, West Hill is one of those areas. There's also Fairwood, East Renton, North Highline, and a very large island in Federal Way. So annexation is tough. And Skyway has had a failed vote where the city of Renton put a question on the ballot. Do the residents of urban unincorporated Skyway want to annex the city of Renton, and it failed.
Failed is probably a matter of opinion.
Well, it didn't have enough votes to pass.
Yes, correct. You got the point.
So, okay. So here's the deal. Counties were created to provide regional and rural services, not urban services to dense local areas, and cities were designed to provide services to dense local urban areas. So the county is in this position of trying to serve this dense urban local area without the revenues or the tools that cities have in order to do that effectively. It's painful for everyone. And the Growth Management Act envisioned that this process of these islands becoming very dense and then annexing to the cities next to them or incorporating into cities on their own, it sort of envisioned that that whole process would be done by 2012. Well, we're well past that horizon, right? And so the issue of annexation is, it's really community driven. Your neighbors have to get together and say, hey, we really want to annex, and you have to talk with the city that is your choice to annex to, in order to get them to put something on the ballot so that you can all vote, and it takes 50 plus 1, right? So that you can move into a city and get the dense local urban services that you need. Until then, we're just sort of left in this awkward position of, we have one planner working on local, urban planning. In the city of Seattle, they have a whole department of 40 people that do that stuff. That's the difference in the levels of service that we can provide. And so it's just tough. It's really tough. The city of Renton does want to talk about a long-term plan in order to annex, but they need some resources from the state in order to do that. And if you were to annex into a city, you would get really robust community planning and the kinds of things that dense, local communities really need. But that's probably a long-term thing at this point.
Well, making a city take Skyway in one big gulp is one of the challenges.
Well, we can't make a city do anything we wouldn't want to. We want to work with willing partners, and we want to do something that's organic, driven by the community. If the community be involved in the process and make a decision about what their future state would be. It's just kind of messy because it's this organic process that, involves a community conversation, and it's not easy.
Hi, my name's Devin. I'm a Skyway resident. I know we're really short on time, so I want to be really quick with my remarks, but I wouldn't want us to leave tonight without thanking Alan, Bong, and Marissa for their hard work putting this together, and all the folks that showed up tonight. Thank you, guys. My question that I wanted to bring up is, I did see that we had this survey earlier. Oh, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm used to having a mic. All right, now we're going. My question is, I'm really happy that we were able to have that survey earlier asked us, how do we want to communicate, how do we want to receive, messaging. We're talking about the Department of Local Services and everything. I wanted to make one quick comment and say that I'm not only happy to see all the folks that showed up tonight, I'm happy to see the folks that are neighbors that showed up tonight. Really wonderful. I want to give you guys all my gratitude for seeing all you guys here. You guys are wonderful. The only thing I'd like to say about that is I also recognize a lot of you guys, which is great. I love that I recognize everybody, which is really wonderful that we have such a strong, I think that's part of our strengths. We have a really strong group of folks that shows up to all these things and puts the work in. And I think that's awesome. But I think it would be remiss of us to go about tonight and leave without considering the fact there's a lot of folks that aren't here, right? So we have about 20-some thousand folks that aren't here tonight with us. One of the challenges I've always seen is communication, right? We have a hard time reaching out into communities, making sure everybody has a voice, that everybody feels accounted for. So we're hearing a spectrum of thoughts and ideas tonight, but I don't feel like we're hearing everything, right? So one thing, maybe it's a question, maybe it's a comment, is that I would like to see when we talk about communication, that we are talking about trying to reach into other communities. We talked about, when are we going to see some SWAT plan stuff? Well, it's going to be on the website. Well, it's hitting refresh until we see it. Well, we know there's only a small handful of folks that are going to be doing that, right? So how are we planning to reach out to not just us, in a group that's real involved, but the folks that may not have had a spot at the table before? Are we looking into translation services? Are we looking into consolidating some of the amazing social media we have across the departments maybe into one? Not just the services, but also the communications, right? And so I would love to kind of hear some thoughts about how we're trying to revitalize that and reach out into communities that aren't here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Just kidding. That was a perfect setup. Everything you said is true, and one of the phrases that we have is new and different voices when we talk about our external communication, because we absolutely are clear that for those communities that are fortunate to have an association or group that is very strong, you know, you can easily extract information, but that's not the only source of information. It may not necessarily reflect the full breadth of what's going on. So we're doing several things, but we're mainly learning and trying to listen and get a feel for what the communities are all about. And Bong and Marissa and Alan are great resources to do that. We're trying to find ways of reaching out to groups. It's hard to do it individually, but groups outside of the normal groups, not necessarily always relying on the go-to associations in the community. We're trying to look at ways of providing interpretive services. Effectively, we don't have a lot of resources, so we're trying to be a little bit practical about how we do this. And, you know, not the normal vehicles that we go to, just finding ways of tripping over things. So this was just a representative slice of the 30 or 40 people we got in here. But you did notice a few sentiments that were expressed that weren't maybe necessarily going to be comfortably expressed with people standing up and raising their hands. So that kind of approach is what we want to do too. So you know, all of your points are very spot on, and we're recognizing that we have to listen intentionally very differently to capture those new and different voices. But that is something that what this department is trying to accomplish. So wish us luck in our ability to do that, but very spot on that.
Hi, I'm Gloria Williams. So, by the way, I did write the comment that was answers, that was not really answers.
How did I do on that one?
It was okay.
It was okay.
No, but I do have two questions, though. And so the first one is about businesses versus marijuana shops. And so it appears, and you know, we can debate whether it's true or not, that businesses have a harder time coming into Skyway, getting the permitting, getting what they need, versus it seems easier for marijuana shops. How do we fix that? So that's number one. Number two is about the community plan, so we're not going to let Brad off that easily. But how do we make sure that as we're working on that and doubling down on the efforts this year, that we don't get mired in, you know, potentially it taking years, you know, saying that we're going to have it done in a year, you know, eventually having it, for example, take like 3 years again, especially since we have a lot of things riding on it. We just talked, you know, we talked about the Lake Ridge, you know, the big houses that are being built, that's supposed to be a part of it. And so the longer that takes, the more difficult it is to, for example, enforce that we don't want, for example, those types of housing or whatever that looks like. And so how do we make sure that, again, that we're kind of pushing that along or meeting the timelines that we would like to?
Okay.
And the answers have to be good.
All right, the answers have to be good. Okay. Well, I'll get high points. I'll get high points on being straight on the first question. I don't know. You asked a question that is incredibly vexing. How do you increase economic development in a community that's struggling while balancing the needs and not over-gentrifying too early, balancing the needs of the community that's been there for a long time, balancing the legitimate needs of businesses coming in that have a right to be there if they do all the things right, but the community may not necessarily embrace them. So you're balancing all kinds of stuff. The ability for people to earn money if they follow the rules versus the community says that's not exactly what we had in mind, versus a long-term community planning process that had a wonderful vision but was not affordable. So the council says, we can't pass this because then we set the expectations and can't meet it. Incredibly difficult. And that is amplified by all the other communities that have the same type of challenge at Indy. Rural communities have a different challenge. They are prohibited by having to have economic development because of the way the smart growth, the comp plan, the whatever the term is, urban growth boundary and all that kind of stuff. But what we're doing is we're trying. We're focusing on elements of trying. There is no economic development perspective in King County that's focused on local services in unincorporated King County. There's none. I think I could fairly say that. So possibly an answer to your question would be to turn up the volume and find those resources. How do you do that legitimately? I don't know. Do you go to a bank and say, hey, if you open up a branch here, people will come? Do you go to a major grocery chain here and say, hey, if you set up shop in the strip mall, maybe people will come? Do you have the anchor first and the others will follow? Do you have the other folks first and then the anchor will follow? I don't know. But we're trying to find the right folks, have the right questions with folks, gather the information, have conversations with elected policymakers, planners, to see if we can move this thing forward in concert with what the community desires, which could be different over here and different over here, so that's challenging as well. So I'm fascinated by that question. That's one of the very interesting things about this whole dynamic, but I'll tell you the truth, I have no concrete answer to how to pull that off. And if I did, I would be holding this microphone right now and be doing something else. Right? How do you go about then getting to an answer? I think the process of trying to find community input that's orchestrated in a way that balances voices, the balances of the new, the old, the progressive, the not so progressive, you know, whatever, that wonderful diversity. Diversity works great if it goes in your favor. The diversity is a pain in the you know what. If people don't agree with you, we know how that works. And then it's messy, and then kind of go from there. But if people are mindful of what, you know, of what they're trying to accomplish and move together, and they're pretty hip on the resources it takes to do that and everything, then I think collectively communities can be very successful. But how you create that magic and anything like that is not an easy task. I don't know. I'm in for it because I want to give it a try, not only in this community, but several others. But that is a wonderfully vexing thing. And you know, the thing about it's a wonderful balance. You go too fast, go too strong, go too high, and people don't like that because all of a sudden you lose the flavor of the community. You don't recognize it anymore. You go too slow or whatever like that, and people leave because they feel like the community isn't vibrant enough for them. Man, you've asked one of the most tough questions, I think. But that's why many of us are here. Okay, second question. Alan or Brad? Okay, we're running a few minutes over, so Brad, if you can answer this one, and I'll take one last question, and we got to wrap.
Yeah, it's a planning question.
The question was, how are you going to get this sub-area plan, community plan done in 1 year, because it took you 3 before?
Yeah, how do we make sure that if there's help that's needed, how do we
Right. I can guarantee you that this process will be rapid, and we will provide as many opportunities as possible in that time. It will be done no later than June of 2019. We have committed to that. We are just now putting together a very tight time frame, and that will be completely open to everybody, so you can see how we're going to accomplish that. We started on July 1. Or that's a Friday or a Saturday, but a work day, and then it's going to be this. So the how is in that document. We will definitely get that to, but it's going to be tight and it's going to be quick, but we will get it. I can tell you that.
Last question of the night.
You're going to get scored on that one, Brad.
I guess there's a couple of questions, and then is it Karen? Karen, can you confirm that this area is on Renton's potential annexation area still?
It is. They have 3 areas.
Okay, so this right now, this area is part of Renton's PAA. And the county did a budget presentation about 4 weeks ago up at North City Water District and had a schedule at that time for this area to be incorporated by 2021. And in terms of the zoning...
So, can I say something about that? So, there's these financial planning horizons that we use, and every year we just push the year out. I mean, honestly, Renton has been very candid. They've been a great partner to work with. They've completed 3 great big annexations. They've got 3 more PAAs. They by far have the most urban unincorporated areas in their potential annexation area than any other city in King County. So it's just been a heavy lift for them. They've been very candid that they need some more resources from the state in order to accomplish the annexation of the 3 areas that are remaining: Fairwood, East Renton, and Skyway West Hills. And Olympia was grappling with the McCleary issue, and so they said, quite candidly, go away and don't talk to us until we deal with this education funding issue. So I would anticipate that in the next couple of years, the cities that do have potential annexation areas, which are Federal Way, Seattle, and Renton, will initiate a conversation with the legislature about how do we get those financial resources back in place so that we can work with the community and talk about what a horizon could be for a ballot initiative for the community to make a decision about their future state, but I think that's a couple years off.
And one last thing in terms of resources, we have a library that's right up here in the Skyway area. Zoning information, community service meetings, all of that is available on the Key County website, and you have free access to the computer up there. So in some ways, aren't we all called to be responsible and keep ourselves informed? That doesn't let Carol off the hook for setting up information.
All right, thank you. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you very much for attending tonight. I know our staff are wrapping up, but if you can help them wrap up and ask them a quick question if they're still here, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much, Council Gossett, Sheriff Johanknecht, for being here, and drive very carefully. Don't leave.